House parties, how are we doing? Welcome to the month of March. It's an amazing time of year. One of my favorites, right? Spring, basically here, which means the sun doesn't go down till like 7:30 these days. The weather is beautiful. The bugs kind of stink, but you can't win them all. March Madness is about to go down. That's basketball, just in case you didn't know. And here at Chaos, we are continuing our series Awaken. In case you forgot or missed it, or we're doing a series along with our whole church, and actually multiple other churches in the area, which is really, really cool. We're looking at stories of resurrection in the Bible. Times when someone was dead, not sick, not just hurting, not just struggling, but dead, gone. We've seen two Old Testament stories where a boy is resurrected, and now two stories of Jesus bringing someone back to life in the New Testament. And tonight we're going to get to look at what's most likely the most well-known story of resurrection outside of Jesus himself actually coming back from the dead. And this is the story of Jesus bringing his friend Lazarus back to life. We find this story in John chapter 11. An amazing story, tons of details we can look at and we can learn from. We start the story by learning that a man named Lazarus is sick. We learn he has two sisters, Mary and Martha, and Jesus knew them, he was friends with them, to the point where the message they send him is, Lord, the one you love is sick. Your friend is sick. And Jesus' response is interesting. Verse 4, he says, "This sickness will not end in death, but is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Then it tells us Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. But right after it says that, Jesus stays where he's at for 2 more days. Then he's like, okay, let's go. Which is weird, right? It's clearly emphasized how Jesus feels about this family. They're close friends, he loves them, and yet when he gets this bad news, this urgent news, he stays put for 2 more days. Jesus, who's been healing people left and right, gets word of one of his best friends needing to be healed, and he waits 2 more days. If I got news like that and I knew I had the ability to do something, I would get in my car and go. But not Jesus. And the reasoning seems to go back to verse 4, where Jesus states this sickness won't end in death, but in God's glory. Jesus knows the ending before it even happens. But he eventually heads out, right? Jesus arrives. He learns Lazarus has been dead for 4 days. He didn't just miss him. He missed him by a long shot. And Mary and Martha have now been grieving for 4 days. They called for Jesus to come heal their brother. They thought Jesus loved them. They thought he cared. And he walks in 4 days late. And we see each sister kind of interact with Jesus. They each say the same thing. If you had just been here, my brother wouldn't be dead. Jesus, where were you? We called to you. We asked for your help. You didn't show. You could have done something. Now he's gone. They think the window for Jesus to act was over. They don't quite know something we learned last week at Rush, which is this: nothing is final until Jesus says so, not even death. From their perspective, Jesus was too late. He missed it. He wasn't there when they needed him the most. But in the bigger story, Jesus was there exactly when he needed to be. He was there for when was best for the people, even if they didn't see it. We learn Jesus knows this, right? He says it in verse 15. When he and his disciples were about to leave to go to Lazarus, he says, "Lazarus has died. I'm glad for you that I wasn't there, so that you may believe." Let's go to him. Jesus arrives exactly when he meant to, and he knew this would create an opportunity for more to know and believe. In his conversation with Martha, Jesus makes his key statement. Jesus tells her that Lazarus will rise again, and she thinks Jesus means at the end of time, heaven kind of stuff. And she goes, hey, I know he'll resurrect in the last day. And Jesus responds by saying, I am the resurrection and life. The one who believes in me, even if he dies, will live. Jesus makes a clear statement, as clear as he possibly can. He says, I have the power of death and life. I give life to those who believe in me. Death can't touch those who believe in me. He brings resurrection and life where he chooses. She says she believes Jesus is the Messiah, the Savior of the world. And then we see another interesting moment. Mary has an interaction with Jesus. She's obviously grieving, hurting from losing her brother, and she falls at the feet of Jesus and cries. And it says Jesus was deeply moved. And when he sees the tomb where Lazarus is buried, it says Jesus wept. He knew the end of the story. He knew what he was about to do, and yet he still felt for those he loved. He felt compassion for their pain and their hurting. Jesus, while fully God and having power over death and life, was still a human being. He felt feelings of pain and sadness that we feel. Then Jesus walks to the tomb. This tomb was basically a small cave, right? So instead of burying people in the ground, then they would lay them in these small caves and they'd roll a big stone in front of it and seal it off. And Jesus looks at the tomb and then he looks at the people around it and he says, remove the stone, open the grave. Martha tries to talk him out of this. She's like, hey, just a reminder, that dude's been dead for 4 days. We're talking gross, decomposing. He's bloating, turning weird colors. There's horrible smells in there. To prepare for someone's burial, like back then, they would wrap the bodies up in these like cloth strips. They'd put a bunch of perfume and spices on them, but that can only do so much for a dead body, you know? But they listen and they remove the stone. Jesus prays, and then he shouts with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." And out walks, or maybe hops or stumbles, this man wrapped in burial clothes. And Jesus just tells him, hey, unwrap him and let him go. Jesus commands, life obeys. Lazarus walks out after being dead and gone for 4 whole days. And it says, many who saw him believed. They saw Jesus as the resurrection and the life, believed that he could do it. This is an incredible story. Honestly, so many details in it. We could spend hours talking about it. It shows us who Jesus is, how he sees people. But the more I read the story, the more I reread this story, I kept coming back to one moment. Jesus tells them to move the stone. And they hesitate because that's a tomb. Like, there's a dead body in there. 4 days dead. That means it's dark, it's rotting, it smells. From their perspective, opening that tomb would only expose like how bad things really were. But Jesus had a plan. He was about to bring life out of something that was dead and decaying. And Jesus didn't actually need them to move the stone, right? If he can raise a dead man with a word, he can definitely move a rock. But he still asked. He still asked them to move the stone for him, which is interesting. I think because he wanted them to get ready for what he was about to do. He wanted them to prepare for resurrection. And that makes me think about our lives. How are we preparing? Because sometimes there are things that we've completely buried. There's things that we have wrapped up, we have placed in the tomb, we have rolled the stone over. Lots of different things. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a prayer you used to pray that you've given up on. Maybe it's someone you stopped believing God could actually change, so you've given up on them, you've buried them. Maybe it's a sin or a habit that you don't think will change. Maybe it's your faith in general. I don't know. Whatever it is, things in life we have buried. We have decided that, hey, it's over. This thing is too far gone. There is no coming back from this. It is rotting, it is dead, it is decayed. So we roll a rock in front of it and we seal the tomb. But just because we buried it doesn't mean Jesus is finished with it. Jesus stands in front of the tomb and he asks us to move the stone. And not because he needs our help to bring life, but because he wants us to get ready for resurrection. The people in the story couldn't raise Lazarus, but they could move the stone. And sometimes the step of faith in our lives is simply being willing to open the tomb again and trust Jesus with what we thought was over. So I guess here's the question for us tonight. What stone might Jesus be asking us to move? What have you buried that he might want to bring back to life? Because if Jesus is still who he said he was, the resurrection and life, when he calls to something for life, when he calls life to something, even the grave has to let it go.